because we really haven't had any rain since April. You know, in April this month, we got a little bit of rain. And we put a lot of money in that road a couple years ago for the cover the front. We may be in the same boat again if something doesn't happen. Can you report it?
Thank you. Yes, right back there, then you.
I've seen our town crews, I think they're doing businesses, but I've seen our salt, our spreaders put salt in businesses and stuff. Is that a policy of the town that when it's snowing and stuff that we let salt and sand all the driveways of all businesses, or we drive it?
You don't do any business.
You don't do any businesses?
Oh, no, I know. Some, I said some.
You said you don't do any? No, they don't do any, so, let me see, Yura.
Yes, I just had a couple of questions. For instance, seems that every department's not able to sweep their own floors, so we hired custodial services. However, they have custodial supplies of like, what, $1,000? So that's not including the custodial services, or what's going on with that? And then, these are kind of like a redundant thing. For instance, like if you ran a business, then you would think like, okay, we got that wonderful clothing allowance. Operational supplies. Now, if you go down the list, you have tools, equipment. I think we're kind of splitting hairs with these sort of categories, and if somebody could decipher what the difference is between like operational equipment, shop tools, and operational, and then the PW miscellaneous. And then I had a question about the wages. For instance, we have crew summer wages, crew summer overtime, crew winter wages, crew winter overtime. If we have 5 employees, can somebody go through that, because I'm not comprehending it?
Who would like to respond to those questions, comments?
I'll just point out that operational supplies, the list that we have is hay and seed, rebuilding catch basins, road signs, riprap, sediment control, acetylene and oxygen for the torches, and marking paint for the roads. So that's broken out as operational supplies. Equipment supplies, if I can find the worksheets. Bear with me. We have motor oil, hydraulic oil, brake clean, inspection stickers, rock brake teeth, trailer repairs. And I'm not sure what was, the last question was something about.
So what's the shop tools then?
Ask me.
What are the shop tools then?
We had just a general list of quarter power, tunnel long, hammer set, drill set, socket set, hammer drill, retractable drop light, 3/4 inch bat, and 4 light, about $2,300.
And custodial supplies is toilet paper and cleaning supplies.
All set?
No, I just wanted, if we have 5 employees, I just don't understand, we have the summer wages, summer overtime, winter wages, and winter overtime. So what is the difference? Because overtime's separated. So what is the difference between the summer and the winter pay then?
Legally, you're allowed to overspend your winter budget because of snow emergencies, and that's why those costs are separated out in the budget.
So the definition of that is, because it's not overtime, so that their rate of
No, it's just a
pay-
split. We just split their hours, October to April, whatever the 6 months of winter is just separated out, along with all the winter activities are separated out in your budget, because those are the things that you can legally run a deficit on.
Okay.
I
You
can
can,
finish an answer for her question.
Okay.
One of the questions he had is why it's listed twice.
yeah, yes, I'm going to get to him. He just wants to,
Listed twice
I'll allow
because
him
of
to respond.
the way they're paid. It's an 8-hour day, anything after 8 hours is overtime. So they're actually 2 different budgets operating that way.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you've been patiently waiting.
2 things. You
Your top priority, you better give yourself some allowance, because if Mother Nature hands us a traditional winter, you can blow your budget by $200,000 to $300,000 and snap your fingers. Okay, so salt priority is a good thing, but you better give yourself some extra money, because when Mother Nature throws a winter at us, you can lose a church in a heartbeat. Second off, I don't work with town, but I work with the same line of work with those guys. And everybody in this room ought to remember one thing. I want to cut the budget just like everybody else, but when you're home in bed at 2 in the morning and it's snowing 3 inches an hour, while you're eating supper with your kids, guess where those guys are? Staring out the window of a truck, plowing the roads. Keep it in mind. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Yes. Yep, go ahead.
I agree. When I came home at 4:30 in the morning one morning, I had 8 inches of snow on my road from the Canton line to my dooryard. So I agree with you. So where was my salt and sand then? That was my point, is the priority in how things are being done that's costing us extra. When I went to this course because I had no idea, and they kept telling me I had no idea, so I went to the course. They told me that I had an idea. It wasn't being done correctly at the time.
Did you want to respond to the question?
There was a really good study done by the Margaret K. Smith group for the University of Maine. For all the citizens in Maine, it compares almost everything, but how much chemical is put down, the effects to the environment, costs for each individual citizen, accidents, fatalities by age group, insurance costs, repair costs for cars, and I think I gave that to Mr. Bells because I even highlighted that. And long story short, the town of Dixfield fared very well in the comparison to other places in the state of Maine. I think we did very well with that, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Thank you. Yes.
I want to move the question.
Okay, you can do that. I have a motion to move the question. Do I have a second?
I already have my hand up for comment.
Did you speak on this yet?
I did.
Yes, and she hadn't, so that's the rule, so thank you. So I have a motion and a second to move the question, and that means if I get 2/3 vote right now, we're going to go right to the amended 485. So you're not voting on the 485 right now, you're just voting to end debate on that amendment. All those in favor of ending debate? All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now we're going to vote on the amendment, which is $485,000 for Public Works Department. If this passes, then we'll go and we'll have to vote on it again. But if it doesn't, we're going to go back to the 509,867 and have some more conversation on that, unless somebody moves that question right off the bat. So, all those in favor of 485,000, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll need a count. I'm pretty close again. Yeah. Nice and high, remember, please. All those opposed? So the motion carries. So the article now, the Public Works Department, is at $485,000. And we're going to have questions and comments on that. Now we're voting on the actual... Yeah. Yes, you did. Pardon me?
Voted to accept it, we just voted for it.
Yes, we would.
He did it on mine.
Well, I'm sorry if I didn't, but that's what we do. So it's,
Wasn't that vote very?
Yeah, vote it down, to go back to 509.
no, it was voted 42 in favor of 485. So we have an amended article right now that we have to vote on.
Didn't you say the first count was 32 for the?
42. So just for clarification, we are voting on, we're discussing right now, 485,000, an amended article of 485. So, questions, comments, move the motion, whatever you want to do.
I'd like to point out, it's my understanding, the town of Canton does virtually the same number of roads as Dixfield, with 3 men, half as much salt, and if you travel the Canton Point Road, you know the roads are better than ours.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, this gentleman had his hand up.
Very wrong here. I think the town has done an excellent job, and you're kind of comparing apples and oranges on this thing here. You get people that complain about out of town and this and that. You want people that want in town for the schools and all that to be done. They did an excellent job on that. They kept under budget. And I don't see where you're coming. You're just shooting out all this other nonsense that you get. These guys did an excellent job, and you're just shooting out stuff.
Thank you. Just for point of clarification, now the amended article can be amended again, so keep that in mind. Or, yes.
There's a huge difference between the size of the scope of work that needs to be done in any given winter storm down in Dixfield compared to the town of Canton. So I for one commend, the public works in a timely manner.
Thank you. Yes.
My land is in Dixfield, but you have to go to Canton to get to my property. You have to go beyond the line, quarter mile. And as a resident, I'm sorry, I live down there, and I drive that road every day, several times a day, and the town of Canton does not do as good a job as the town of Dixfield taking care of the road. I've driven out on that road and had 3-4 inches of snow on the Canton side and gotten to the Dixfield side, and it was clean and properly maintained. And I live in Dixfield, but you've got to go to Canton to get to my house. So, just to clarify that.
Thank you. Yes.
I've seen times, as he said, it is what it is. I bought the guy's coffee one day because they did a good job on the road. This was not an ongoing thing. This was where I had started looking into it and started asking Canton, started asking Peru. The Public Works brought me a whole pile of pictures one day of other towns after a storm. The problem is they didn't bring me the one from south, which is where I get my information from, and I travel that road test driving it every day. So when I say I get to the line, 95% of the time, the road that I get to is better than the road that I have. We travel all these roads. You said it's apples and oranges. I live there. He travels it, but I live there, so I see it. Now, taking care of the roads, when it's done correctly, as I said, I went to the course. They told me the process and how it's supposed to be done. They do a good job. You can lose a road, as it was described, if you do not process it right at the beginning of the storm. This is where I've had issues. We shouldn't be using as much sand as we use. I agree. We shouldn't. We shouldn't have to if it was processed right at the beginning. That's just one part of it. Like I said, a lot of this has to do with a maintenance budget that's bloated up. I can point it out, I have. Tools not being bought. When we're rolling over money and it's not being spent, we're not buying the equipment we're budgeting for. It'd be, it's not making any sense. So when I was explaining, we don't understand budgeting. I guess not, if that's the way it's supposed to be. These figures I came up with, it isn't like I said, all right, I want to do this amount. I went through all of this. I went through the course just to see how it was supposed to be done and the amount per road. We have 100 pounds per lane mile. This is stuff I never knew before I went through that. We have road systems built in this town. that are supposed to be used, built with 5%